Habits and Health, episode 50.
Welcome to the Habits and Health podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. Brought to you by an educator and coach for anyone who wants to create a healthier life. Here's your host, Tony Wynyard.
Welcome to another edition of Habits and Health. My guest today, Silke Maria Haas. She's an energetic coach and healer who has over 25 years of experience helping people with physical, emotional, mental and spiritual problems. And she went to India at the age of 18, where she discovered yoga as a way of life. And so we find out a lot more about what happened and how she's worked on that since and what she does now. So that's this week's episode with Silke Maria Haas. If you know anyone who would enjoy this week's episode, please do share it with them. Habits and Health. My guest today, let me see if I can pronounce this right, is Silke Maria Haas. Did I get it right? Fantastic. How are you, Silke?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me on your show.
That's a pleasure. And you're in a much warmer part of the world than I am at the moment.
That's true. I'm in Mallorca, Spain, and it's beautifully sunny for a change because we've had weeks of rain.
Yeah, but when it rains there, it's still quite nice though, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not like when it rains in England. I mean, you know what it's like when it rains in England.
That's right. I lived in England for 8 years, so I would know.
Cool. And you've been in Spain quite a while, you said?
Yeah, for over 20 years I've lived in Spain, in Mallorca.
And what was it that took you out to Spain?
It was when my daughter was born, and I was living in London, and I thought bringing up a child in a big city wasn't the right thing to do. So moving out of London was, a fresh start. Mm-hmm. And I had a distant family member that lived there that invited us over. Okay.
And you're originally from Germany?
That's right, yes.
So you're quite a world traveller.
Yes.
So how many languages do you speak?
I'm fluent in German, English, and Spanish. Mm-hmm. And there's other languages, but I don't speak them fluently. Cool.
Okay. Well, let's talk about you're very much into health, aren't you? And that is because you mentioned that you studied in England.
That's right. Yeah, I studied to become an osteopath and a naturopath in 1990.
Okay. And what was the influence? What made you want to do that?
I actually originally trained as a yoga teacher at the early age of 18 when I went to India.
Okay.
And then coming back from India, I realized that a lot of my students had medical problems that I didn't know enough. So I was looking for something medical to back up my yoga teaching. And then I stuck with the clinic and the practice and the one-to-one work.
And why did you go to, are there many places around the world offering that sort of training? Why did you go to London?
Well, there was a side interest, a side hustle. I wanted to study dance, and there was a particular course I was interested in London. But also, I was too young to do the German degree in naturopathy called the Heilpraktiker then. So that was the obvious choice.
And for anyone who doesn't really understand what is osteopathy and naturopathy, what could you give a definition? What is it to the average person?
Oh, I love that question. It's really looking at the body as a whole, looking at the body as a self-healing mechanism. And osteopathy is very much to do with looking at the relationship between structure and function. So by adjusting or manipulating or helping the skeleton to be in a better place, that could improve the function of the organs, the movement, and the well-being of the person on all levels.
And I'm wondering, so when you were deciding to do that course, after you'd been doing the yoga in India, would I be right in thinking how you thought that would help you before you studied it? You had very different thoughts after you completed that course, what you learned during that time.
Absolutely. I had no idea what I was letting myself into. But it's like that with many things in life.
Yeah. So what did change? What were you, after you qualified, what were your thoughts? What did you think you were going to do?
Well, at that time, it was obvious I was just going to get my hands dirty and just work with clients, get as much experience as I could. And what I didn't know, it would then lead me on to more helping people to heal and empower themselves, which is what I'm doing now as a coach, as well as sort of repairing and doing the one-to-one work. But I very much love reaching more people and giving people the means to help themselves.
And is there a certain type of person you work with, like a age group or any sort of particular demographic?
Well, in my practice, I have literally from newborn till 95-year-olds.
Okay.
In my coaching, I like to focus on parents because having children gives a big why. And since children are sort of my teachers in terms of being lightness, joy, and being beings of presence, parents are obviously in a much better place to understand what I'm talking about. But really, it's about anybody who's conscious and sensitive and really wants to empower themselves.
And when people initially come to you, is there a common theme that they have that they come to see you in the first place? Why do people seek you out usually?
Usually they have some sort of problem. They have a pain on the physical level or an emotional, or a relationship problem, or they're struggling with some issues in their life. It's quite often, as in life, pain driven. Right. And very few are joy driven. They just want to learn and to grow and to be more aware. I love those too.
And so once you start working with them, I'm guessing that they initially come to you just because they've got some pain, and they probably learn far more than just simply dealing with that pain, I'm guessing.
That's right. They start to understand that the pain is somehow their manifestation of their problems in their lives. And that's really the trick, to make them understand that until that problem is solved, whatever I'm doing is just a remedial thing. And they're much better off getting out of that victim place and getting into their power.
And so when you say you work with parents and the children at the same time, did you say?
That's right. I mean, a lot of people bring the babies to me after birth because that's one of the common issues that I treat. That baby is not sleeping or not feeding well, not growing well, and it has some sort of blockage. And that's quite easy to solve with gentle osteopathic treatment.
Okay.
But then you have the whole stress of the parents and not knowing how to deal with different situations in their lives. It shows up issues in the relationships. Yeah.
And so what aspect of your work do you enjoy the most?
The thing I enjoy most is when somebody comes back to me and they've really applied some of the tools that I've shared with them, and it's worked for them. And I can see them flourishing in various areas of their life, being happier, healthier, and more abundant. That's the biggest gift anybody can have, I think.
Right. And is it something you can do both online and face-to-face, or does it have to be face-to-face?
No, it can actually be done online because energy doesn't need a person to be there physically. That is if I work energetically.
Right.
Or with coaching. When I work with a physical issue, I prefer people in front of me.
So what would you say is the of your clients, what percentage would be face-to-face and online?
And it's changing. It used to be like 90% face-to-face and 10% online. And I'm just working on the transition. So it varies from week to week.
Right. And I guess with the whole sort of pandemic thing over the last couple of years, there's been far more online than face-to-face.
Yes. Although we've been very lucky here in Spain that we've been allowed to work and had less restrictions than anywhere else. But that's also part of the problem, that people, when they are confined to their homes, they need the remedies to work with themselves.
And so what is it that the issues that people are having around pain and so on when they come to you in the first place? Is there a common denominator in what's causing the pain in the first place often?
Yes. On the physical level, I would say civilization.
Right.
Chairs. Sitting far too much and moving far too little. And not having the proper balance between rest and movement.
Right.
That is a very common cause for skeletal problems, at least, as well as stress, of course.
Right. And how easy or difficult is that to remedy?
It's actually very easy to remedy. All they have to do is take sitting breaks, get up every half an hour and do 2 minutes of exercise.
And do they need to sort of be changing their furniture or anything along those lines?
Well, ideally throw out the furniture and sit on the floor. Of course, there's better and worse chairs, and there is these, cheap versions of just a ball that you can sit on at the height of your sitting bones, sort of at 60 or 70 centimeters. Mm-hmm. They can usually be bought for 10, 15 euros. And that gives you a moving balance.
Right.
And it's just a nice change for your back.
Right. And do people think of some of these things as being extreme because they're so used to what is normal for them for their whole lives? Do they think about, do some of your clients think this is a bit extreme maybe?
Possible. They don't say that a lot. I mean, I make them look into other countries and where people sit a lot more on the floor and they work really hard physically. And yet there's a lot less back pain and joint problems just because people sit on the floor and they bear down to go to the toilet in a squat and they do simple things. Even the Muslim prayer position is a great back exercise, as most people know from yoga.
Yeah. And so are you still instructing yoga as well?
No, but I use some exercises from yoga to instruct clients on a one-to-one.
Right. And in the coaching that you do, I'm thinking, so the people you've worked with previously and you've helped them with issues around pain and it sounds like often it's around their back and whatever. So and you've given them information about how to not only to resolve it, but I'm presuming, do many of them need to come back to you, or once you've sort of given them information, they're able then to carry that on for many years and it doesn't come back again, or what is the case?
It depends on the chronicity of the problem, on the type of problem. A lot of people can just do with maintenance. The pain can usually be resolved if they resolve the cause of the pain.
Right.
And then they can maintain themselves with exercises. But it's like I say, it's a bit like going to the dentist, although I don't like the comparison. It's like I can brush my teeth every day, but I would go for a dental cleanse every 6 months and a checkup just for the bits that I can't get to.
Right. So what would you say in what you do, what is your main message that you're trying to put out?
If I put it into one sentence, I would say you can heal and empower your life. That you can actually be in charge of your life. You're the creator. And the same way that you can create a problem, you can uncreate it and have a better life.
Right.
And problem can be like a stepping stone towards a better life. Like quite often a problematic situation then makes us turn around and change something, and looking at it from the hindsight perspective, it often turns out to be for our better good.
Right. And is it something that people think is going to be very difficult and is actually far easier?
Yes. A lot of people have this idea of personal growth work as being hard work. That's part of the conditioning. And then when they actually realize that they can learn from joy, like children do.
Right.
And by being lightness and being more rather than doing more. It's very much about coming more into presence, coming more into your being. And then the doing comes out of that being, and it's not hard work anymore. It's hard to change habits, you know that.
Right. And I'm wondering, you were talking before, well, I don't think you actually said these words, but a lot of this comes down to, I guess, it's sedentary behavior.
Yes.
Is there, because it sounds like you're dealing with many nationalities, obviously Spanish, you've been living in England and you're from Germany. Is there, maybe this is controversial, but is there a nationality you find far more sedentary than others?
I haven't actually thought about this. No, it very much depends on the constitutional type.
Right.
And obviously the type of work somebody does.
Right.
It's I haven't found a cultural pattern.
Which profession, is there a profession that you've had to deal with far more than any other?
I would say I get a lot more desk workers than I get physical laborers.
Right. Understand.
But that could also depend on the level of education.
Right.
So I wouldn't dare to say that's to do with it. But I do think not moving is more harmful than moving.
And there's a lot of talk about, a few years ago, many people thought the solution was, we're sitting too much. Therefore the solution is a standing desk, which is not really the solution, is it?
Well, it is for some people. Other people, like me, I can't stand for any length of time, so I prefer to sit.
Yeah.
It's about creating a balance. And it's when people are working on the computer, really what happens is that their consciousness is sort of in the computer and we forget about the body. We kind of all in the head and the mind, and then we listen to the body when it shouts at us in pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then we take a painkiller and shut it up again. And then we're surprised and we create more and more physical problems because at the end of the day, the body has a certain tolerance, but there comes a point when the compensation mechanisms don't work anymore.
So how do you try to, because changing people's behavior is very difficult, for not only if you're trying to change someone else's behavior, but even when you're trying to change your own behavior, it's very difficult. How do you go about it?
That's a great question. It can be difficult. I mean, you have to have a good reason why to change. And when the reason is good enough, you will do it.
Right.
And once you've changed the habit, like brushing your teeth, it was hard for our parents to teach us brush our teeth. But once you've gotten used to having a clean mouth, nobody needs to go after you for you to do it.
Right.
Because it becomes natural and it becomes a habit.
Right.
So once you've installed a good habit, it actually doesn't take much to keep it up because you get the benefit from it.
We hope you're enjoying this episode of the Habits and Health podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. If you're looking for the fastest and most effective way to transform your energy and well-being, we invite you to join Tony for an upcoming Habits and Health workshop. This 5-week group workshop will empower you with tools to disrupt unwanted habits and make positive changes easy. You'll enjoy sounder sleep, better energy, less stress, and a happier mood. Workshops begin on the first week of every month, and you can sign up now at tonywynyard.com. Now, back to the show.
Sometimes there are behaviors that we want to do and we know they're going to be good for us, but even though we have that knowledge, we still can't get ourselves to do that. I mean, there's loads of people want to meditate and they realize the benefits of meditation, but they just, for whatever excuse they come up with, they don't meditate.
That's right. Yes. And in German, we have a saying, you can't carry a dog to hunt. So it's like, you have to really want to do it. And then you have to sit down and literally work through it. Because when you start sitting down and then you're faced with all these little voices in your head, and sometimes it's not nice what comes up. But knowing that if you do it and then you create that habit and you get the benefit, there is no way you would turn back on it.
What habits have helped you the most? Is there any habit you've really had to work hard on?
What has helped? There's two parts to that question. The habit that's helped me the most is definitely meditation.
Okay.
It's coming into awareness, into being. Because in a way, by being who I really am, I sort of go beyond all that conditioning and programming that limits me.
Okay.
And so working from my essence is the thing that helps me most in living my life, a happier life.
Okay.
I think I've struggled most in just doing regular exercise, because somehow, getting out of bed in the morning and getting going is not a natural thing. It wasn't conditioned. It wasn't natural to me. So I've had to work hard on it.
Right.
But every time I do it, it's like a success. So doing it 6 times a week, it's kind of, I win every day and it makes me stronger. And I feel great afterwards.
Right. And you talked about the meditation. Is there a particular type of meditation that you prefer?
I think it's mostly being present.
Right.
Yeah, it's being present with the breath, being present with whatever there is, and being, not judging, just being in that space and not trying to do anything.
Right.
It's stopping the trying.
So it is not you. So you're not in like sort of transcendental meditation or loving kindness or any. There's none of those particular styles that you follow, for example.
No, I don't follow a particular school, but I've done lots of these techniques, and sometimes I would do some breathing or some particular visualization to start with. I definitely do start with gratitude.
Right.
That's a big thing, to get into that vibration of gratitude.
Right.
And then it's literally coming into being. There's a place when these techniques stop being techniques. They just they sort of go.
Do you ever suggest meditation for your clients?
Yes, absolutely. I actually make it sort of, I don't take on coaching clients unless they're willing to commit 15 minutes a day to do some practice.
Okay.
Because I found it's a waste of money going to classes and learning things if you don't apply them.
And when you say practice in meditation or in all the things that you instruct?
In all the things.
Right.
It's like you want an investment, so you have to put something into your bank account in order to get an interest.
So typically what would in those, did you say 50 minutes every day?
15
minutes, right.
Yeah.
And so typically what would those 15 minutes be made up of? What would you hope people would do every day?
Well, hopefully they would spend some time sitting. They would write down what they're grateful for. They would write down their successes.
Mm-hmm.
And they would visualize their goals and objectives. That could be a very simple routine.
And is there any people you've worked with who, when you first suggested that, they didn't think they would be able to do, they've never done anything like that before, they were like, oh, I'm not sure I can do that? Was there any sort of reactions like that?
I presume there are. I tend to make deals with people. I say, well, look, you're paying me to do coaching with you. So when you pay for it, usually like, having a gym membership, you're more likely to go if you commit to it.
Right.
And then, of course, there will be people who pay the membership and then they don't go. And that's fine too.
For people who are listening to this and maybe they've got pains or whatever it may be, they are too sedentary, what suggestions, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, be aware of what they're doing. They listen to their body. If we were to talk to our bodies and really feel our bodies in the same way that we would do it in a relationship, I very much compare the body to a marriage. I say, if you were to listen to your wife or your husband only when they shout at you, you wouldn't call that a good marriage. Yeah?
Right.
And the art of having a good relationship is to tune in, to listen, to ask questions, and be really interested in the other person, and in that case, in the body. And knowing that you don't have to always understand, but it's all about being present and listening. And as you work on the relationship and feeling your body more, then you learn to understand, and your body actually gives you the indications to do what to do. To drink more water, to move more, to take more rest. Whatever it is, it could be so many things. Touch, for example, is also something that a lot of people are missing. Just to be held.
Right. And is there an element of some people maybe thinking that they're healthy or they're fit because they do maybe they do a lot of sport, but it's just one sport that they do all the time. Maybe they only play tennis, or they only play golf, or they only play football, and they're not having a mixture of different types of movement. And can that be problematic?
That can be, although in my experience, I find that people do themselves less harm doing what they love doing and what they enjoy doing,
Right.
than doing what they don't enjoy doing.
Right.
But quite often when people say sit all day and then they go off and they try to do something really hard, and then they obviously do themselves harm, because that's when they start, then when all the damage from having sat all day comes up. And then also it's to do with the attitude. When people sort of are into competitive mood and into having to achieve things, and they take that into their exercise, then again, the mind goes 3 steps ahead of the body. And then it's not a good teamwork.
And so once people start tuning into their body and listening to their body, as you explained before, then what I'm thinking, what would be a good recommendation for them to do? To be taking things like yoga, tai chi, sort of movement practices, to especially if they're getting older, maybe would that be advisable?
Yes, I mean, you can't generalize because bodies are so different. I usually have the criteria that it should be something that the person enjoys, not another must in their life.
Right.
Yeah. And should be something where the mind and the body work together.
Okay.
It could be yoga, it could be martial arts. For some people, it's running,
right.
Or boxing when they have a lot of bottled up aggression. It could be dancing. There's so many things. If you ask your body, it'll tell you.
And actually, dancing is a great one for many people, I'd imagine, because that's can be so much fun.
Yes, it's one of my favorite ones. So,
right.
And it doesn't feel like sports because it's, you're moving and you're having fun, you're socializing. There's so many things that this fulfills.
And have you, in the last couple of years since the lockdown pandemic situation, have you found there's been more people suffering from sedentary behavior because of being at home more, or is it not too much different?
I couldn't say because I'm busy always. So
right.
It's like, I think what's more that people are starting to have more economic challenges. So they're more saving on coming to see somebody.
Okay.
But that's exactly why I give out more material for free. I actually have a YouTube channel with exercises for sedentary people.
Okay.
So that's something that I make available.
Right. So how would you like to see your business, your practice develop over the next few years? Are you going to be adding any new things or trying different things?
My practice is totally changing all the time. I'm forever learning. I'm a total junkie when it comes to learning and development. So my aim is to reach more people, and also to reach people more with my words and just with my hands.
Okay.
So yes, my plan is to be a lot more online, to be more present. I'm writing a book at present, and I've published 4 online products in the last 6 months.
And what type of things were they?
Well, I have a 12-step course where people can actually, go through the steps of what I call energetic coaching to heal and empower themselves.
Yeah.
And I accompany that with live group coaching calls monthly, and a membership site for people to exchange with me personally and the others in the group, because it's more fun when you do it together.
Right.
But of course, people can do one-to-one coachings, and they can do half online, half live with me. And just recently, I published a course to release blockages in the subconscious. That's a particularly piece of work I call karmic knots. Okay. And that's a one-off, very, very powerful work, which usually gets rid of 80% of the problems within 10 minutes. So it's really amazing work.
And in the book that you mentioned that you're writing,
Yes.
what will the book be about?
The book will be about how to be crazy, happy, healthy, and abundant.
Okay.
Because my coaching method is called Crazy Healing. This was a name I got channeled long before the crazy times that we started. And it's about using the crazy situation, that is the problem, as a stepping stone towards reclaiming one's wholeness.
And when do you hope to have the book finished by?
Should be out next year.
Okay. Whenabouts next year?
I'm just finishing writing it, so whatever long the publishing takes,
Right.
That's out of my hand.
And speaking of books, is there a book that has really moved you at all?
Yes, I have it with me. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And it's all about scaling up and becoming the best version of yourself. Stop playing small, basically.
What was it about the book that really moved you?
It was realizing that I had been playing small for so many years.
Okay.
And realized that there was so much more to me than I believed myself to be able to do.
If people want to find out more about the courses that you mentioned and your social media and your website and so on, where is the best places to go?
The easiest way is to subscribe to my newsletter on my website, crazyhealing.eu.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also the courses that have been published. They're also on the website.
And is there the YouTube channel you mentioned?
Yes, the YouTube channel is just my name, Silke Maria Haas.
Okay. And I'll put links to all of these in the show notes for anyone listening.
That would be great.
And just before we finish, is there a quotation that you particularly like?
Yes, I very much love the quote of a theologist called Reinhold Niebuhr. And it's a little prayer, really, saying, grant me the courage to change the things I can change. Grant me the equanimity to accept the things I cannot change. And grant me the wisdom to differentiate between one and the other.
And what is it about that sticks with you so much?
Well, it really describes the essence of my coaching, because energetic coaching is about developing the skill to differentiate one thing from the other, and to cultivate that acceptance, and at the same time cultivate the courage to do the changes.
Well, Silke, thank you very much for your time. It's been a real pleasure, and best of luck for the future.
Likewise, it was great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next week, episode 51 with Filippo Di Leonardo. And he's a third-time entrepreneur with a passion and mission to create products and services that can improve people's lives. And he's done a lot of work around behavior change. And it inspired him to launch an app called Essential, which is a work-life experience platform that combines AI and the science of well-being to help professionals feel more balanced, energized and inspired in their day. So we talk a lot about how this platform works and what was the inspiration behind it and how it will actually help people. So that's next week with Filippo Di Leonardo. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Please do share the episode with anyone you know who you feel would get some real value from this, and I hope you have a great week.
Thanks for tuning in to the Habits and Health Podcast, where we believe creating healthy habits should be easy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Sign up for email updates and learn about coaching and workshop opportunities at tonywinyard.com. See you next time on the Habits and Health Podcast.